Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, innovation is when invention and necessity meet and you get great stuff and stuff that's useful. Well, we've got Michael Goodman, maker of useful stuff. He's with a company called CEntrance. We're studying some products that he makes for broadcast and podcasters. It's coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support online at bgs.cc. By the Ruby console from Lavo. See Lavo in your future at lavo.com/TWiRT. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by the CalRec Type R console system. Type R is a brand new, modular, expandable IP-based radio system from CalRec Audio. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower and some of the cool stuff in between. And today is no exception to that. We got some cool stuff to talk about. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host for the show, and glad to be here. You watched the show despite me. we got a great guest, and our usual co-host, Chris Tobin, is here. I work for the Telos Alliance, which is why I'm here in the comfy, cozy Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And I really appreciate my friends at the Telos Alliance, my colleagues there, my bosses and everybody allowing me a couple hours off once a week to do the show, and also providing some of the nice gear that's right here in the studio at the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville. So, by the way, if there are questions that come up about audio over IP, audio processing, telephony, those are the things that I tend to be somewhat good at answering because I work for a company that does all those things. Intercom too, over IP. Hey, that's enough about me. It is a fall feeling day in Nashville, and it's so welcome because we had some plus 90 temperatures just a week ago, and it's so good to have it cooler now. Enough about that. Let's check the weather in Newark, New Jersey. Or maybe it's in New York City. I don't know where Chris is. Chris Tobin, welcome into the show. How are you?
I'm fine. Today it's New York City. It's Midtown Manhattan. I'm in the heart of the city. The Big Apple, as people used to call it. Anyway, we're doing a great weather today. Blue sky, sunshine. It's very comfortable. A lot of folks in the park and the streets, street greens, as they call them. And also, I was told that the weather is going to change this evening to gusty winds, 40 miles an hour, and heavy rains. So enjoy it while you can.
Well, hey, I did check the weather. I checked the weather for two events coming up. Madison, Wisconsin. Of course, the Wisconsin Broadcast Association Broadcasters Clinic is coming up there. Chris, I'm sorry, are you going to be there for that in Madison?
I cannot. I have a schedule conflict with shooting videos with some musicians, and this entire next week is entirely booked.
Okay. Well, are you going to be able to join us for the show on Tuesday next week, or am I going to be soloing with all my closest friends in Madison?
Now that I know it's Tuesday, I forgot that you talked about that, but yeah, I can make that happen.
Okay, that'd be great. But you know how it usually is. We're swamped with people, all getting on microphone there from Madison, and then I checked the weather. It's going to rain on Tuesday in Madison. Other than that, it's just going to be kind of Wisconsin weather, kind of chilly. Good sweater or jacket weather. And then New York, though, for the AES and the NAB in New York. Coming up next week, and I'm going to be on 3 different panels there, and I hope to see you, Chris. We're looking for, I think, a little bit of rain on the Thursday, but not a lot, and then just partly sunny skies and cool temps for the rest of the next week. Yeah, so let's get the rain out of the way while I'm not there. By the way, when we're at Madison, I'm assuming we're going to be doing the show with this connectivity right here. This is the Max Connect wireless modem, data modem from Bone Broadcast, BOHN, Bone Broadcast. Josh Bone has actually created a cellular phone company that has priority over everybody but first responders. And that means you can be at a parade, you can be at a car dealer, and you could be at a football game at halftime when everybody whips their phone out to, text or call or check their Facebook. And guess what? You still have data because you have priority over all those suckers in the stands. You've got it with Max Connect. Max Connect it's a modem. Yes, it's a cradle point modem, industrial quality, but it's also a service. And so if you do live remote broadcast, audio or video, and of course we do both. We do video. You get you a Max Connect. You can get an AT&T card or a Verizon card. This one has both. I can switch between them.
I just got to figure out how. I think Chris already figured that out. And it comes with things like the paddle antennas that you want for your cellular coverage, and it's their SMA connectors, so you can put a bigger antenna on there if you want to. And it comes with Wi-Fi antennas that plug on the other side. And it also comes, you should really use it with the LAN. That eliminates, one uncertainty. So use it with the LAN connection. Wire it to your laptop or whatever audio codec, like a Telos Zip 1 that you're going to use. And you are just about guaranteed. I mean, if data can get through, you're going to get it. Thanks a lot. Max Connect, MaxConnectWireless.com. We'll have the address in the show notes for you. Highly recommend it. All right, it's time to bring in our guest, and I'm excited about meeting this guy. At last year's, or this year's, I should say, April NAB show, it seems like I came across a booth that was pretty interesting. They were showing off a little audio production device, and it looked intriguing. And I actually misunderstood one key factor about it. So I kind of thought, they need to make that change. But I found out I was wrong. So I think it's the cat's meow. But let's, the show's not all about the product, although we're going to talk about that. It's also about the innovation and the technology and the inspiration that went into designing it. That's what I like to talk about. So let's welcome from the Midwest, I think Chicago area, Michael Goodman. Michael, welcome into TWiRT. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
So, Michael, we're going to give the little elevator speech right now and then hit our first commercial break. Give us a little taste of what we're going to be hearing about. That's something to, this device or a suite of devices to really help broadcast engineers and podcasters too.
Well, CEntrance is a 20-year-old company, and we are well known for the quality of sound that goes into our boxes. So today we're very excited to show you this MixerFace product. It's got an internal battery, so therefore I can turn it on. It's not plugged into anything, and it's already showing you the LEDs blinking. So MixerFace is a portable recorder and mixer.
Yeah.
It can record into an internal SD card right here, or it can record into a connected phone or computer. It's ideal for remote broadcasts. It's it's that product, and it's a little companion to MixerFace called the MicPort Pro, which is a single channel version of that, same principle. Also battery powered, also goes with you wherever you go. Our the company motto is we make audio personal. And so we design products that go around the person. They go with you wherever you go.
So Chris, one thing I'm looking forward to talking with Michael about is I've bought some devices that do some of what Michael's products do. And a couple of times I've been pretty disappointed because the audio was just kind of fair. I was like, well, okay, this was worth every bit of the $59 I paid for it. So we're going to talk to Michael about some of the design characteristics that make these boxes actually very professional. And we've got this amazing video. Chris, I can't wait for you to see this. This amazing video with a sports car and a MixerFace. And you're going to cringe when you see it, but it'll be good. Hey, our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcasters General Store and Innovonics. Hang on.
The Aaron 655 is the latest addition to the Innovonics family of rebroadcast receivers, designed specifically for FM broadcast translators, also referred to as relay transmitters. The Aaron 655 is unique as an uncompromising DSP-based HD radio and FM receiver combined with a powerful 3-band audio processor and dynamic RDS encoder. IP connectivity adds streaming capabilities, and a web browser interface gives you total remote control of the unit from any PC or mobile device. The Aaron 655 gives you maximum flexibility for program sources. Select program audio from analog FM, digital channels HD1 through 8, streaming sources, and analog or AES digital line inputs, all with assignable failover audio backup. The internal RDS encoder allows you to customize your RDS messaging. You can use incoming off-air RDS data, convert HD radio pad data to RDS, convert streamed metadata to RDS, or receive IP telnet data. Comprehensive audio processing includes gated and windowed AGC, a unique syllabic leveler, 3 bands of compression, and both wideband and independent HF limiting. Easy setup is achieved by using 10 factory presets and 10 customizable presets. The processor also supports day parting, allowing automatic preset changes to follow different programming formats throughout your broadcast day. The front panel has an OLED display and jog wheel with intuitive menus for easy setup, advanced control, and editing for all operating parameters. The Aaron 655 dynamic web interface gives you total remote control of the unit from any PC or mobile device. A comprehensive set of menus includes a quick overview of now playing info, input-output control, processor options, RDS encoder, alarms and notifications, SNMP settings, and much more. You can also listen to the live audio broadcast streamed through the web interface.
Awesome, just an awesome piece of equipment here, as are a lot of pieces of gear from Inovonics. And you know what? I just found this out a couple of weeks ago. You can go to the Inovonics website, Google it in case you spell it wrong, Inovonics, audio processing, things like that. And they have online demos of most of their gear, well, their stuff that's got a web connection. And you can just go right online and play with one of their pieces of equipment and check it out for yourself. I did that a couple weeks ago, even forgot and left the browser open for a few days, but I think more than one person can be in there at once. Thanks a lot to Broadcasters General Store for bringing you this product from Inovonics and their whole line, bgs.cc, Broadcasters General Store. You can give them a call at my favorite number, 352-622-7700. And the folks at Broadcasters General Store will take care of you quickly. All right. Thanks a lot, BGS, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech and Inovonics. All right. Chris, I alluded to high quality, and that I had been disappointed in the past with some, prosumer kind of gear and the audio quality. I've got a $1,000 microphone here and a $300 mic processor and a pretty decent $200 USB converter here. But when I saw the stuff from CEntrance, it looked pretty interesting. Before we get back to Michael, Chris, have you made the mistake I have of paying too little and getting something that just wasn't worthwhile for broadcast?
Yeah, on many occasions. I mean, a lot of times I do it because I know what to expect it, but I say, hey, you know what? Let me try it anyway, because sometimes the interfaces don't have to be very complicated. I mean, 20 years ago, yes, maybe you needed something that had a certain type of input stage and, high quality transformer inputs if you had to go that route, or DC coupled. Nowadays, it's pretty much built into a chip, and the only thing you have to worry about is what kind of connector you use, USB, XLR, or RJ45. Yeah. I've had a few of those. I've had a few doozies that are like, wow, that was really not worth it, Or you talk to the person, the company that did it, and you're like, where did you come up with this idea? Because it totally doesn't work. And they're like, what do you mean? We've got people in Europe using it. I was like, yeah, well, I like to talk to those people. It's the last time I hear from the manufacturer, so I know that's a problem. I kid you not. I've had a few of those.
I don't doubt it at all. And back in when microphone preamp to USB was kind of a new thing, there was some manufacturer kind of flooding the market with these cables, like a pre-made 6 or 8 or 10 foot cable that had a female XLR on one end and a USB connector on the other end, a Type A USB. And in one of the connectors was a chipset, so it was a little built-in sound card chipset there. And I wanted to use it for the show back before things like the Audio-Technica USB 2005 mic was available, and and before the Shure X2U was available, which we used for some time till the pots wore out. Well, that cable was just horrible. I mean, it was $29 or $39, and it was, you could almost hear me above the noise, right? It had a lot of self noise.
Well, but I had a few of those.
Yeah. Well, things have come a long way since then. And so Michael Goodman is with us, and he and his company CEntrance have designed some products that are actually, you would call broadcast quality. And for podcasters, they're great too. So Michael, you showed us there at the beginning of the show, one of them. Of course, why don't we talk about the MixerFace first, because that's what I think a lot of folks would be interested in using. Tell us again what it does. It's a mixer and an interface and a recorder. Does all those things?
It might be a little bit easier if I say that MicPort Pro, which is a single channel version of that, came before the MixerFace. The original version came out before the Shure X2U, and then Shure X2U came. But yes, during the time when MicPort Pro came out, there were a whole bunch of these little, cheaper adapter thingies that you're talking about They were around, but all they did was they added the sound of your voice to a built-in noise generator. So maybe not the best for broadcast quality audio, right? MixerFace here is essentially a continuation of the tradition of bringing high-quality audio to the broadcaster. Now, this product was in development for quite a while. We talked to a lot of people to make sure that we do it right and to make sure we pack it, with a lot of features that are necessary for field recording. And what turned out to be the fact is this is not just used by reporters. This is also used by traveling musicians who record gigs. And, the product has a little camera adapter here at the back, which allows you to put it on a mic stand, allows you to put it on a little tripod thingy, something like this. Little tripod adapter that you can just put on your table, and you put the MixerFace on top of that, right like that. So a lot of different uses for it, but first and foremost, it's it's a battery powered, it's a rechargeable recorder and USB interface. So it's got two really high quality preamps in there. Our new Jasmine mic preamp it features over 57 dB of gain range, very quiet. It's based on discrete differential pair transistor design, and it has a 24-bit, 192 kilohertz A to D converter inside.
Wow!
So you can record with a very high quality, and then so two high quality mic pre's are feeding that A to D converter design, and then that goes out into the USB jack. This USB jack is what you connect to the computer, but you can also connect it to a phone or an iPad. Right, and that simplifies your setup. So this thing is not much larger than an iPhone 10, which I have right here, essentially about the same size. Yeah. And this is your entire recording studio. Together, these two things let you record in high quality. Basically, a lot of reporters these days, they're trying to use the phone, leave the laptop behind because it's, bulky, and record to the phone. But there's no way to use the built-in microphone inside the phone because it's not high quality, right? So what this thing does is it essentially creates a bridge between the phone and a high-quality microphone, such as this KSM32 that I have here, the favorite of the voiceover actor community, the Sennheiser MKH416 TLM103. Basically any microphone would pair really well with MixerFace, and then it would feed it to the cell phone for recording or for live broadcasting, live streaming. You can use something like Lucy Live or Thailand Reported app. And that way you're creating a remote broadcast solution. So that's MixerFace in a nutshell.
The mic connectors at the top, are those dual quarter-inch and XLR style? Yeah, they are, I see.
Correct. When we were developing this, we wanted to see where the product would land. We weren't sure that this is going to be only a broadcast product. Now it turns out that broadcasters love this the most. But we went to a couple of NAMM shows, and we showed to a bunch of musicians that we know because we've been well-known in that industry as well. And then so this can take not just a pair of microphones, but also you can plug in a guitar or a bass. So there's a high Z switch here, so you can use high impedance guitar or bass. So this is good for recording music as well as voice. And because there's two inputs for a singer-songwriter situation, for example, you can have a microphone plugged into channel 1 and then acoustic guitar plugged into channel 2, and you can record your set, onto this product. If you're using the built-in SD card, then this is all you need. High quality, rugged aluminum, aircraft aluminum, as we say, and as you will see a little bit later, it's quite tough.
I know we're going to watch that video. I'm going to tease the heck out of that video though, and we're going to play it in a little bit. So, oh gosh, what was my? Oh yeah, the fact that you said I can plug a mic into it and plug a guitar into it. You really are making me second guess my career choice, because see, with that product and a guitar and some talent, I could have been a troubadour. I could have just, traveled the world and sing my songs, play my guitar, and that would have handled all my mixing and recording right there. Isn't that right?
Never say never, Kirk. There's always
I don't think you want to hear me sing. Oh man. So when I saw the product the first time, and again, I told you I was misinformed or got some bad info, and you corrected me. I said that product would be perfect if only when you hook it USB to your phone or your laptop, if you could hear the audio coming from the laptop back into it and mix it into your headphones that you've got plugged into that thing as well. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. It's got a headphone jack or two on the bottom of it, right?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing headphones that we just released. These are CEntrance headphones.
Well, of course they are.
And this is a pre-production model, and the logo is backwards, so the responsible have been sacked. Now it's all proper. Now, yes, it has an audiophile headphone amp, believe it or not, because we're quite well known in the audiophile community as well as the broadcast community. We've been making these audiophile DACs for people because audiophiles, they love to listen to music off of their computer or off their phone. But the sound card inside of the computer is, it's a victim of cost reduction, essentially. They don't use really good parts. So if you use an external USB-based DAC, then it's possible to put higher quality components in it. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years. So we really know how to make portable products sound good. Okay, so a headphone amplifier from one of our headphone DACs for audiophiles has made its way into this product. And therefore, you can actually use this to listen to high-quality music, and you will absolutely love your experience. But so it's compatible with pretty much any headphones under the sun. We've tested it with dozens of models because we have a whole bunch of them here. And you can actually even use a splitter and split it off to two headphone pairs so that you and a producer can listen at the same time, for example. This knob right here is the headphone volume knob, and it will let you adjust the headphone level. It's quite loud. But then to answer your question, there are two controls here in the middle, which we call the blend controls. And essentially what this is, it's quite simple. It gives you a balance between the direct signal that comes in from the microphone input, right? And the signal that comes in from the computer. So you can essentially adjust a perfect mix between your own voice and the voice of, let's say, a producer, if you're talking to somebody remotely over like a Thailand app or something like that. Or if, in case you're doing some voiceover work and you're narrating on top of a music bed, right? So you can adjust the level of that with this handy little blend knob. And then you can do that for the second channel as well, because this is a 2-channel product. You can individually adjust the levels of the input signals versus what's returning from the computer, or what's playing back from the computer for that matter. So yes, to answer your question, we absolutely have a way to monitor both the direct path and the return path. Now, of course, the direct path is zero latency because it's just taking it from the preamp itself. And then the computer path is also quite low latency, specifically due to our driver expertise. Now, we've been in the driver business for a while. We've licensed audio drivers to a lot of companies in the audio industry, dozens, as a matter of fact. We can talk about that later. And our drivers are very low latency. So for Windows specifically, Mac already includes low latency drivers as part of the Mac OS package. So you can even achieve low latency round trip signal delay with this product.
Wow, and that's important. And I didn't realize that that the Mac driver was already pretty low latency. This is the Mac USB driver, right, for audio getting through?
That's right. Apple is quite serious about audio and media, as we know. And then so we've actually met the developers over in Cupertino, the guys who are responsible for creating these drivers. They're very good programmers. They're good software engineers. They understand what they're doing. And they, from day one, pretty much wanted to make sure that Mac is the best platform for music and audio. Windows is not really, for them, it's not a priority. We've talked to Microsoft. We've been to Redmond. We've talked to them several times about either licensing our driver to them or about, just asking them to please improve the audio performance of Windows. And the answer was always, it's not a priority. We are the Office is what's the priority for them. So Microsoft wants to be in business applications. So it actually creates opportunities for companies like us who develop higher quality Windows drivers, or lower latency Windows drivers than what's available with Windows. and then we can license them to some of our consulting clients.
You mentioned hooking this directly to a phone, and you showed your iPhone. So I guess what kind of cable would you use to connect to the Lightning connector on an iPhone and get digital audio both ways through there?
Because the iPhone has exactly the Lightning connector here, there's no cable that connects directly from that to USB. You might be able to get some cables on the market, but they will not be Apple approved, and that's a little bit of a problem because the Lightning cable is a smart cable. There's a chip inside.
Yes.
And the iPhone actually talks to the cable the way it talks to the device. And if the cable is unauthorized, which oftentimes unfortunately happens, what they do is they actually disable the cable in the OS.
Yes.
So
Yes,
we don't recommend using. Yeah. I know. We don't recommend using these, off-brand cables. So the best way to do this is to go to the Apple Store or online or Amazon and get. I don't have it here. It's a little. It's like an adapter. It's called Lightning to USB adapter converter, and essentially it's like a little piece of cable. And on the other end, it has a regular USB. Thank you.
There's one
regular
right
USB
there.
jack. Yeah. Right. And then to that, you just plug in a regular USB cable that comes with MixerFace. So that's how you connect to Apple or iPhone, iPod, etc. iPad.
Okay, good. Hey, Chris has some other questions as well. Chris, yeah.
Yes. Question number one. I'm curious. I have a workflow that I wanted. I think your product will actually fit. So you're talking about voice talent and people running tracks for recording. So I work with musicians quite often, and every so often we have a need to have a musician track for a particular show, but he or she can't be in our studios here in the New York Metro, so they're on location wherever. They could be touring in Tokyo or in Germany. So if I have them using this unit to record locally onto the SD card, can I also have? I think from what you said, you can do this. I plug in my iPhone or their iPhone into the unit. I can call their phone number, their phone, then talk to them in their headsets to direct them for the voice tracking, correct?
Yes, you can, and it's just a matter of routing it correctly because the unit is quite complex. There's a lot of different routing possibilities. You just want to make sure that the right signals are going to the right places. So fundamentally, what you're saying is possible. Now, what we've seen people do quite a lot is record to both places at the same time, which this unit makes possible, and that gives you an opportunity to achieve additional redundancy with regards to your recording. So for broadcast applications specifically, it's really useful. For music applications, you don't need redundancy as much normally. But essentially what you can do is you can connect the iPhone via the USB cable, and then you can press record in the application on the iPhone, and at the same time, or a little bit later, you can press record in the built-in SD card recorder. Those are two completely separate paths, and they will record at the same time to two separate places. So you would have a copy on the phone, and you would also have a copy on the SD card inside of the unit, which you can later take out and put in the computer and read off that way. So that level of redundancy is unusual in the device in this kind of a price range. And it gives you that extra level of safety, extra level of peace of mind when especially you're out on an important shoot and you will have an opportunity to get a second take. So that's possible. And then going back to your question, it's also possible to have a producer cue essentially come into your ear. And there's a couple of ways to do that. I mentioned there's a lot of routing possibilities. So one way to do that is to go in through the computer remotely. And then another way to do it is to go in analog through this extra input called AUX 3.4, this little jack here,
I understand.
and a corresponding control knob. So essentially that mixes a stereo signal in with the two microphones that are coming in. So you can have, and there's a lot of ways you can use that input, but one of them is to add some music underneath what you're playing, is add another in a producer cue, add another stream that you might want to mix your audio with, etc. So a lot of possibilities and a lot of flexibility in a rather small unit here.
Yes, no, that works perfectly. Okay, that's it. That's what I was trying to determine. Okay, perfect.
I just
have an
wanted
idea
to
for
say
this.
that one of your earlier podcasts watched, and you were talking about being in the studio and being quite busy. And one of the people that was in the studio with you at that time was Christian McBride. And
Yes.
you probably see a bass here in the back. And so Christian McBride is an inspiration.
Yes,
So
I
thank
see
you
him
for
quite
mentioning
often.
that name.
Welcome.
Cool. Hey,
He's a fun guy.
we're gonna take our middle commercial break, but I want to tease coming up. We've got a video that's just going to make you go, "Oh my God!" It's coming up here in just a minute. You are watching or listening to This Week in Radio Tech, our 463rd episode. Our guest is Michael Goodman. He is the founder and CEO of CEntrance, a 20-year-old consulting company, and you know what? They found a need and filled it with three fairly new products. So we're talking to Michael Goodman about design, and I want to just prep Michael that we're not only going to be watching this really cool short video, but I want to hear a bit more about the design philosophy and how you work in lithium-ion batteries. And I mean, you're not a big company, so after the break, I want to hear a little bit more about how you get something like this designed and off the ground. Our show, This Week in Radio Tech, is brought to you in part by our friends at, we can say it now, Studio Hub. That's right. We somehow these folks at Angry Audio have finally been able to make arrangements for not only the Studio Hub adapters made in the same Studio Hub factory where Studio Hub adapters and cables were made, but also they now have the rights to use the actual name Studio Hub. How about that? So, hey, you thought it was gone? It ain't. Studio Hub from Angry Audio. And if you want to know the story, I like stories. I think we all like to know how something happened. What exactly took place? The cover story in, I should show you that. This cover story in Radio Guide that's dated September, October 2019. That cover story says, Studio Hub, an idea too good to die. So you can read all about it here. Story written by Anthony Clark. So check that out. You'll want to find out the story of, what's going on with radio systems and Studio Hub and Angry Audio. Well, one of the cool things that's happening is if you've been used to buying Studio Hub gear, and by the way, this includes the power supplies, panels, electronic gear like the headphone amps, the match jacks, the devices to bring those D-sub-9, D-sub-15, those connectors out to a couple of RJs. All that's available now. And all that, even the Millennium consoles, are now supported by Angry Audio. So the best way to find this stuff is to go to angryaudio.com and see for yourself at angryaudio.com. There you go. Welcome back, Studio Hub. And what I was going to say about that's really cool is that the prices on the adapter cables, those are now 25% less than they were before. That's right. I think they still have the deal going. If you buy for every one of this kind right here, the female RJ45, going into XLR, male or female, whatever connector you need, for every one of these you buy, you get a free 7-foot Cat5 cable. And that should take care of about 90% of where you need to go with Cat5 from a Studio Hub adapter. Check them out, angryaudio.com. Hey, we'll be right back after this word from CalRec. Stay tuned.
TWiRT is CalRec's first native IP-based mixing console. It is fully AES-67 and NMOS ISO4 and ISO5 compatible as defined by SMPTE 2110. Connectivity via Cat5e utilizing COT switches and power to the surface is supplied via standard PoE switches to minimize cabling. Its 2U core has integrated I/O, so you're instantly up and running, and it can power up to 3 independent mixing environments, each with their own separate DSP resources. TWiRT's surface is modular and expandable, consisting of 3 slimline panels, each of which are user-definable with layouts saved and recalled quickly between shows. It's available in 4 DSP packs, and as your station grows, larger packs can be added, making TWiRT the most flexible radio console you can buy. Find out more at calrec.com/TWiRT.
Thanks so much to CalRec for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech at calrec.com/TWiRT. It's episode 463 of This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack along with Chris Tobin from New York City. Hope to see Chris next week as I make my way there. And with Madison, Wisconsin in between. Our guest is Michael Goodman. He's the founder and CEO of CEntrance, a company that I became familiar with this past NAB. And Michael was good enough to come on and talk about some of the technology that goes into their boxes. Now, I've been promising and teasing. Michael, I think it's time that we saw the video. What do you think? Do you think we should see the video now?
Dangerous.
Is Michael there?
I am. Yes. I just had my volume off.
So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll hear you fine. So Suncast is probably working really fast to get this video queued up. I just gave him the link for it. Sorry, I was a little slow in that. And so Suncast, if you are ready, he's good to go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, Chris, here's the deal. You and me are going to watch this video, and it's okay if we talk over it. There's no talking in the video. So for those people who listen to This Week in Radio Tech and they don't watch, they're going to need play-by-play and description, okay? So, Chris, you haven't seen it. I've seen it once, and I'm excited to see it again. So let's roll the video, and Chris, you and I can just give our impressions right over the top of it.
Okay.
MixerFace meets the SUV tire. All right. What we have here, titles. Here we go. We have a car. And we have a MixerFace on the ground. Oh my God, the car's rolling over it. Oh my God, an audio mixer it's getting run over again backwards in slow motion. Chris, does this do something to your brain that make you uncomfortable?
Not at all, because I work with folks in the field that pretty much that's the standard. It's like a mil spec. Mil standard 810 C, D, and E is what I'm thinking.
to run over with a sports car? Is that the standard?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh. You obviously you're exposed to more things than I am. I saw that. I thought, oh my God, because you know why? I have understand it's cheap. I have a Behringer mixer on the other side of my office right now, and it's going to go to Madison, and it didn't survive a trip very well. It bent some knobs and stuff. And so I'm trying to replace that. So obviously the $159 Behringer mixer will not survive being run over by a sports car. but the MixerFace did. So that we haven't heard that exact same MixerFace work. Michael, can you promise us that one worked right after it got run over?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, this is the one. That it's a little beat up at this point. It's
what?
Yeah, there we go. It's still in my demo case. I'm still using it. I mean, I don't need a perfect one visually. Still works.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what made you decide that, it can put up with that? How did you think? Is this nutty or should we show this demo?
No, it's not nutty at all. I mean, it's I would hope we know what we're doing. So a couple of words of background. I grew up at Shure here in Chicago. I spent 10 years there. And at the same time as I was hired, a whole bunch of other engineers were hired. They were on a hiring spree back in the early 90s. And they got a whole bunch of smart people, aside from myself not included, who later went on to start very interesting companies. For example, Matt Anderson and John Tatulis started Sound Devices. And so they're friends, and we meet at shows. Anyway, so at Shure, we were trained to make equipment that was indestructible, built like a tank, essentially. That was a philosophy ingrained in our minds. And that you can see that in Sound Devices products as well as CEntrance products. Once you learn that, you can't really unlearn it. You learn how to make high quality stuff, and you don't want to go back. And so that philosophy has been with us for a long, long time. And then the first product that preceded MixerFace was, as I said earlier, MicPort Pro. And that was also made out of aluminum. And that it found a very appreciative audience among voiceover people and narrators in general. These people travel all the time. So essentially what they do is they get a gig, they speak for 15 seconds, and then they send it off, and then they're off playing wherever they are in that part of the world. So it's an interesting job. I should reconsider my career choices. But except I don't have the voice. But they loved the fact that our products were robust and small and portable. And we kind of continued with that tradition. And then everything we make is designed to essentially survive for many, many years. We're now hearing from customers who have had their MicPort Pro, the original one, for, I want to say, like 9 or 10 years. And they're asking if we have anything new, because they love the MicPort Pro. They don't want to give it up. But, maybe they want to work with their cell phone, and that the original one only worked with the laptop. It didn't work with the cell phone because it didn't have the battery built in. Now, the new one has the battery built in. So essentially, people are not, this is weird, people are not replacing their existing MicPort Pros because they still work. They're buying a new one just because it has more features. Try doing that with your phone or with your laptop computer, etc. So in a way, we're over-designing these products so that they last for many, many years.
Very cool. Hey, I want to talk a bit about electronics and design philosophy. You alluded a minute ago that you spent some years working at Shure, designing. What kind of products were you involved with there?
Well, different kinds of products. A fun product that I got to work with was the SM7B microphone. That's a very well-regarded microphone in the radio station business. Yeah. And so what happened is in the 90s, that microphone started, we started getting reports at Shure from radio stations, which were now putting in these CRT monitors into the station, into the control room, in order to use some of the newer, automated cart software, etc. And what had happened is that microphone had a single coil pickup inside, which worked fine for, 30 years prior to that. But with a CRT monitor nearby, it started picking up all kinds of, interference, RF interference, hum. So one of my jobs, one of my earlier projects there was to redesign the microphone and add a humbucking pickup, a dual coil pickup, such that the CRT interference was eliminated. So that was a fun project. And then I was involved in a lot of analog circuitry designs, digital circuitry designs. One of the first digital mixers at Shure was, designed by the team that I was on. And then when I left, I was managing some engineers, had responsibility for a team in Germany and a team in Chicago. So that was a lot of fun. But then it was time to, expand the horizons, and then I did some other things.
Michael, I want to ask you about some technology that is inside your boxes, and that's something that's a little scary for some of us, and that is lithium-ion batteries. We've in some cases they won't let you fly on an airplane unless they're with you in the passenger compartment. I have to be really careful flying when I fly with my drone, for example. And we've heard stories of things blowing up. Even big companies like Samsung have had their share of issues with lithium-ion or perhaps lithium polymer batteries. Anyway, you got a nice battery in these things, lasts a long time. What can you tell us about designing lithium batteries into your product?
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy to get this done. So a lot of competitors use the AA's, right? The small little batteries that you have to go through and buy the new ones every time, which really increases the cost of ownership of these products, field recorders and some such. So we early on decided that we want to understand lithium-ion battery technology and do it right. So we went and saw a whole bunch of vendors. And eventually we found the vendor that supplies batteries to the biggest manufacturers out there. They have what's called Japanese technology, slightly different chemistry compared to traditional Chinese technology. These batteries have been in the field now for over 6 years, and they're still working, which is amazing, right? Again, this is not possible with your cell phone, which typically works for 2-3 years, and then the battery really starts to die down. And so what really works in our favor here is that this is a metal chassis. Now, metal chassis will protect you and everything else in case something goes wrong with the battery, which I don't know if there has been any time that something has gone wrong with the battery. We haven't heard of anything like that. But batteries don't want to be punctured. That's essentially what you don't want to do with them, because then the chemicals leak out and that can create a reaction and that can lead to explosions. So, even if you dispose of a battery or a product that contains of a battery, dispose properly to avoid puncture. Traveling with batteries, specifically what airlines want you to do is to make sure that the battery is connected inside of the product. So if the battery is connected to a circuit, then in that case, its leads don't have a chance of shorting together and creating a short circuit, which also will lead to an excessive heat due to the fact that the battery will warm up, etc. So if the battery is inside the product, then it's okay to fly with it, and it's not going to cause a hazard specifically. Now, lithium-ion batteries are an interesting technology, and there's a very particular process that you have to go through. There's a charging profile and a discharging profile, and we put in a lot of circuitry and computer power that actually looks at the battery and looks at its voltage and the current that it's drawing, and it appropriately manages the environment within the battery is situated to get the most out of it, to get the most amount of power out of the battery. So it's not straightforward, but we figured it out, and now this is, I want to say, probably 10th product that has a battery that we've released, and therefore it should be pretty stable at this point in terms of technology. And of course, we're improving all the time.
You mentioned during our little break there that the guy who invented lithium-ion battery, and I think I've read some articles about this guy, but he's been honored here just recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, I just saw on the news yesterday, this guy who invented the lithium-ion battery, he just got a Nobel Prize, and he's like 97, so just about time to say thank you to somebody for such an incredible contribution to the humankind.
Chris, I see these products as being really useful. I like the durability. Also, I wanted to give Michael just one more chance to chat about the audio quality, because Michael, and when we talked a couple days ago, you mentioned some things about it's really hard to keep crosstalk out of a product like this because it's so compact, and the various traces and leads have to be very close to each other. That was a challenge for you guys to make sure that there was no crosstalk going on where it shouldn't be in this product, right?
True. One of the skills that I think that we have that really helps us out to achieve the high audio quality is PC board layout. Believe it or not, it's kind of a simple thing on the surface, but not really when you start getting down into the engineering of it, especially when the product is so small. And there's a mic preamp, which is a very sensitive circuit. And then there's a whole bunch of digital stuff there, several microprocessors that are running inside of the product. And then there's a USB out. There's a lot of stuff going on in a very small amount of real estate on the PC board. And crosstalk is inevitable, right? So designing the PC board in such a way such that you minimize the interference is quite a challenge. And, we aren't shipping the first version of this, let me tell you that much. It's a trial and error to an extent. You can model some of these things with computer systems, but not to the extent of the real world. So you still have to prototype it and then measure it and then listen to it, which we still believe is a very important tool in the toolkit of an audio engineer, despite however many oscilloscopes and pieces of test gear you have, you still have to listen to the product. And we encourage every engineer here to do that. So crosstalk, minimizing crosstalk, just very, very careful layout, making sure that you partition your board in such a way that different circuit blocks do not interfere. They don't come into close contact with each other. There's big gaps, etc. So the floor plan, so to speak, is probably the most important aspect of designing an audio product, in my mind.
I know what you're talking about. I agree completely. Not that I'm an expert, but I've spent some time around the developers at my employer, Telos, and they've told me about, it's a little bit tough to put, for example, an audio processor in the middle of lots of microprocessors and inside a transmitter. And I know a few companies have done that, but it's a little challenging. Hey, tell you what, we're going to take our last quick break, and then you're going to come back, I believe, with a tip. Also, I'd like to hear a quick word about your headphones, since I'm curious about what makes them different. And I'm sure Chris Tobin will have a question and a tip of the week. So we're going to take this quick break and be right back after this word from Lavo.
There has probably never been a better time in history to buy a new radio mixing console. Today's consoles are more sophisticated than ever, with more features and functions than you can shake a stick at. But have you noticed how complicated they are? There's a sea of knobs and switches and displays and buttons. Some of them look like you might need a pilot's license to do your show. Well, a board doesn't have to be complicated to be powerful. Just look at the new Ruby mixing surface from Lavo. The first thing you notice is how smooth and streamlined it is. Ruby has lots of cool tech, but what it doesn't have is that confusing ocean of buttons that clutter things up. Now, we all know that there are some console features the jock only uses once in a while. So why dedicate controls to them? Ruby fixes this problem by moving those once-in-a-blue-moon controls to a touch-sensitive, customizable GUI that happily shares screen space with your other studio software, helping you fight control room clutter. Thanks to this design innovation, talent that use Ruby produce smoother shows with less errors. Controls that are used the most fall naturally to hand, while functions that rarely need adjustment are easily controlled with just a couple of clicks in the context-sensitive GUI. And Ruby has cool features you won't find on other boards, like Auto Mix, an intelligent gain writing function that guarantees the perfect mix for multi-mic morning shows and call-in segments. Dual mode snapshots that instantly switch the motorized faders between on-air and production modes, and enough DSP and I/O options to make even your pro sound pals green with envy. And because quality is as important to Lavo as it is to you, every console is proudly built to fanatically precise standards at Lavo's own factory in Germany. If you're ready to declutter your control room, do yourself a favor. Check out the new Ruby and the other cool Lavo radio tech at www.lawo.com/TWiRT.
And thanks to Lavo for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Sure appreciate their support, as we do all of our sponsors. And you should check them out, too. We always put the sponsors' links in the show notes when we post the show online. So it's on YouTube. It's on thisweekinradiotech.com. It's also on gfqnetwork.com and on Facebook, too. So check all that out. All right. It's time for our tips of the week. And I asked Michael if he could have something ready to give us a tip about it. And I also asked him about the headphones. So maybe he can answer both in one answer or separate answers. Michael, what do you have to say about those?
Well, basically, I think we already talked about this, right? So if you've just invested $1,000 into an expensive microphone, don't go cheap on the mic preamp. Don't go cheap on your interface. Get an interface that will do proper justice to your microphone. Get something that can handle the pressures of daily, abuse, essentially, which is what these products experience on a daily basis in radio station use and broadcast use, etc. In other words, what we're seeing is a lot of people get the best possible transducer, but maybe not necessarily the best possible, thing that goes after it, such as that mic preamp, etc. Especially if you're using it in portable. And then to tie that together with the headphones. So we have been an audiophile company for a while, and we've talked to a lot of audiophiles, and we kind of know what makes them tick. And we've also talked to a lot of musicians and radio station people and voiceover actors, and we know what they need from the standpoint of high quality playback that lets them listen to themselves, hear themselves talk, and also block the outside noise. So these headphones, the CEntrance Serene DB, that's the name we're using for them. Serene because they kind of make it all cool and serene and peaceful when you listen to them. We designed them so that they are transparent, which is what our company is known for. We don't color the sound. We create solutions that give you the truthful representation of what's recorded, if you're listening to recorded music, or what your voice sounds like if you're talking into the mic. And then so these headphones are great for both music listening as well as recording music or voice, etc. They feature these nice little cushioned ear cups which block the outside noises, and then they feature the closed design, meaning that sound doesn't come through. Right now, it's quite comfortable for me, and I also don't hear anything else that's going on in the office behind me right now, which is great because I can focus on this interview, right? And then the frequency response is quite flat, and there's a solid bass, there's transparent highs, and there's a nice convincing amount of mid-range, which accentuates the vocal frequency range and lets you hear songs and also your own voice in perfect clarity. So we feel that these headphones are going to be quite popular among the people who produce content, as well as people who consume content, such as our beloved audiophile customers.
Well, it's good to have transparent headphones. I have long sought that, so I'd love to hear those. Well, let's see. Chris Tobin, do you have a quick tip for us? And I want to tease mine. I got a cool tip this week. It's not often that I do, but I do this week. Chris, what you got for us?
We're recently working on a couple of sites where internet connectivity was kind of sparse, if you will, and I realized that I needed to access some documents that I keep on my file server, so when I'm doing work and whatnot, it's handy. So I decided to transfer a lot of the stuff, make copies, and now carry a portable drive. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but this little SSD stays in my bag, so when I'm traveling about and somebody says, oh, we're going to be doing this and that, I'm like, wait a minute, I think I have a document on that, and this is much quicker than trying to get on the internet, get to a file server, and get to where I got to go, or I should say the cloud services.
Yeah,
and it's paid off a couple of times. As a matter of fact, part of the reason I've been doing this too is I've been studying up on LTE and 3GPP protocols for the Max Connect, and this has been very handy, keeping the documents with me rather than try to get online somewhere and start researching. So it's been very good.
Cool. And that's an SSD. How big a SSD is that?
Oh, this one's a 2 terabyte.
Okay.
It's it's worth it. I mean, just you want to get yourself $1,000 microphone and you only get a $10 preamp. Same thing here. Don't get a cheap hard drive just for the sake of it. Just do it right.
I hear you. All right. Well, thanks, Chris, for that. And I've got a quick tip that I think you'll be interested in. Suncast is going to roll some video right now. I want to tell you about this thing from a company called Cloudcast Systems. They're in Australia, and it's a little server program called Remote Play. Now, this works on Axia Livewire systems. So you put this little server program on a computer in your radio station or in your facility where you've got an Axia audio over IP network, and then you access it remotely. Okay, so you open up a port to go, access it, and you can choose a port, and it shows you all the devices that are on the network. And you click on one, and then it shows you all the ins and outs that it may have on that device. Some devices will be one in, one out, like RDWNIX. That's our Rivendell for WNIX. So I know sorry, I don't have any audio on this, but it would be playing through the cell phone or through the remote computer. It works on a laptop because it's a web page. You are browsing into a web page at your radio station, and you can listen easily to any Livewire, Axia. Actually, I guess it would work with AES67 too on your Axia network. You can listen to any of these. Now, it does convert them into an Opus codec for transmission to your cell phone or your remote site, wherever you are. So I have listened from home. I've listened from the car. I've been able to check on different feeds. This happens to be at our Greenville, Mississippi radio station, and I can go look at, listen to any of these. On most devices, it will show you the metering. Right now on iPhone, it does not, but that's just a programming thing that they're working through with with what's available to show on a browser, on Safari browser. I think this was recorded off of a browser on my PC. So you can look it up, Cloudcast Systems Remote Play. It is... well, on the one hand, I would say it's not cheap, but I think it's worth the money. It's pretty cool. So there you go. Cloudcast Remote Play. Chris, you got any comment about that? Pretty cool to listen to your audio over IP system remotely if it's Axia.
It's a great tool. I mean, if I was an Axia plant and I want to keep an eye on for quality control, for diagnostics, excellent. As a matter of fact, if I'm a programmer at a station that's an Axia plant, I'd be like all over that. I mean, definitely if you're a group station and you have Axia plant, that's even better. I mean, as I said years ago, and you know this because I said this to you when we were doing that Axia install at a small station in New York City, and I said, this is a game changer because now I can be anywhere and still be in touch.
Yeah. And I must point out, there's other ways to do what that program does, but they're inconvenient. I got ways to listen to anything I want to there, but I got a remote in, click, 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 and open a browser, listen to the stream. And with that program, you just open one browser and click, 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 and you're in. Yeah, hey, we got to go. Exactly. Michael Goodman, thank you so much for being on with us. Appreciate an hour of your time and your knowledge. And we will put you, it's CEntrance, CEntrance.com, right?
Just like the word entrance with a C on the front. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kurt Goodman.
We'll have your link in the show notes and links to your products too. I appreciate that. Chris Tobin, thank you for being with us. Appreciate you, buddy.
Absolutely. And Michael, I'll be sure to let Christian know that you've enjoyed his music and mentored.
Thank you.
And a big thank you to Suncast. If you were watching live, you saw a few minutes of dead air while Suncast was fixing some things that broke. And if you're watching the recorded version, well, you may not have noticed much of anything except an awkward transition from me. So we're grateful for Suncast to be there. Also, Andrew Zarian, the founder of the GFQ Network. We got to go. Next week, we're here on Tuesday, live from the Wisconsin Broadcast Association's Broadcasters Clinic. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.